out the new Xperia Play from Sony Ericsson, the latest, one of the latest Android phones from them. We already had a look at the ARC on RGB filter, and now I'm going to look at the Play, which is the first PlayStation certified handset from Sony Ericsson. I'm sure in the future we'll be joined by other ones. It's also an Android 2.3 or gingerbread phone, and I guess it's sort of Sony Ericsson's second attempt, second generation of Android handsets, and they're certainly much improved. Now, instead of going over sort of all the Android functionality, which is very similar to the ARC that if you check out our site, we've already put a video up. I'm going to focus exclusively on the gaming functionality. I've downloaded a fair amount of games onto the phone, and hopefully go through some of those games and give you an idea of how they play and how they look on this phone. I will start off by saying that initially I was a little skeptical of the Play. I wasn't sure if I was going to really enjoy a dedicated gaming handset with a hardware setup. I mean, the phone was pretty thick from the pictures I saw, and obviously like the other Sony Ericsson phones, it's still mostly made from plastic. So yeah, I was initially a little skeptical, but to be honest, since I actually started playing with it and playing some of the games on it, I would definitely say hands down it is the best mobile gaming experience I've ever had. Really, the controls make a huge difference when playing all the mobile games. Not only the Play optimized games, or the ones just exclusively for the Play, and also the PlayStation games, but even some of the more popular Android games that I had experience playing on a touchscreen device. Having the hardware controls is really 1,000 times better, and I have a few games downloaded that will demonstrate that. So I'm just going to quickly open the box up here and show you what you get when you get your Play. So the phone here is obviously this is the white version, which is going to show up dust, but in actual fact fingerprints are less visible on a lighter back device. And just quickly before I go into the phone, show you what else you get. There's the USB cable for syncing the device and the charger, and you also get these fairly decent white earbud headphones and mic sort of headset setup. And unlike some phones, you actually do get a paper manual that explains how to use some of the features on the phone, especially useful if you're a first-time Android or even smartphone user. So that's what you get in the box here. Again, like so many phones available today, no case included in the box, and I really don't understand why these companies can't at least give you some kind of case or cover or something that you can slide the phone into. So just before I start playing some games on it, I'm gonna go over the hardware, just to talk about the design and how it feels in the hand. So here's a quick look at the hardware before we start playing some games. 4-inch LCD screen. On the front of the phone you have the Android control buttons, back, home, menu, and search. I don't like the fact that they're very closely, they're not very spaced apart. In actual fact, they're fairly small. I guess trying to squeeze the 4 buttons onto the front was important, but I wish they had been capacitive or maybe spaced out better. So those are the main sort of, I guess, Android-centric buttons. The phone, it's not a thin device. Certainly, it's one of the thickest, if not the thickest, Android phone on the market. Obviously, to accommodate the sliding game control, but it has a nice weight and feel to the hand. It's nicely balanced. It definitely doesn't feel cheap, even though it's mostly plastic. It still feels very good. The curved back fits nicely in the hand. So when you're using it in the phone mode, it definitely feels very good in the hand. And of course, the magic is when you actually slide open the game controls. So here we go, and standard PlayStation style gamepad. So you know, you have the triangle, square, circle, X buttons. You have your D-pad over here, and we have these two analog controls. They're not traditional. They're not like an analog stick. It's sort of like a touch-sensitive pad that sort of, I guess, simulates an analog controls. And it's not as good as using a DualShock controller, but it's still useful. For example, one of the games you control the camera with this analog control, and it's you know, you find that works very well. There's a menu button here, and there's actually the sort of traditional game style select and start button, which will be used for both the Android games and for the PlayStation 1 games that are available for download for the Play. On the top here we have the shoulder buttons. There's only 2 shoulder buttons rather than 4, which you know, if they were to port over some PlayStation 2 games, that might prove to be problematic, that the extra buttons are not there, but I'm sure they could somehow, in those particular games, map the extra shoulder buttons to the screen itself. So I guess you could have the, you know, left and right shoulder here, and you could have the other shoulder buttons right there, or something along those lines. As you can see, the screen is already covered in fingerprints. It's a bit of a typical any of these Android phones today. The screens are like fingerprint magnets, so that sort of cleaned off those a little bit there. So, power button, camera on the back with an LED flash, and the Play actually has a front-facing camera, which is not found on the Xperia Arc, which is nice for video conferencing. Obviously, the latest version of Android 2.34 includes native video conferencing from Google, so if Sony was to update the software on this, they can include that. There's also a couple different video conferencing applications such as Quick and Tango available on the Android market, though I'm not sure which ones will be compatible with the Xperia Play. And obviously the Skype is also going to eventually bring video calling to Android, though I don't believe the version right now actually has video calling. So, you know, I got the hardware. Oh yeah, there's the headphone jack and USB connection here. So really nice hardware, really feels really good in the hand. Let's boot up the phone and start playing some games. So now that it's booted up, and I have to say that the boot up time on this phone and the Arc is actually incredibly long for an Android phone. Way longer than my HTC and Motorola phones have had. So nice little thing here, when you slide open the keypad when the phone is on, it brings up the Xperia Play games interface here. As you can see here, you can scroll through the games that you have installed, which is nice little graphically enhanced way of viewing all your game titles. But you know, this leads me, before I get into some of the games, actually, I guess I'll have to be a little bit honest and say some of the criticisms, little issues with the Play. Not big deal, but not a big deal, but not all the games I have installed on the phone actually for some reason show up in this interface, which is a little bit frustrating. So there's a couple games I actually have to exit to launch. There's also this more games section here, which highlights games optimized for the Play, and there's quite a large selection of games right now that take advantage of the Play's controls. So I definitely would say that Sony Ericsson has really got a lot of developers on board with making games that get great on the Play and take advantage of the controls. But this leads me to the issue of the fractured way of buying things on Android. And, you know, it's partially, I think, Google's fault for not cracking down or laying down the law. Because, for example, a Gameloft does not sell their games on the Android market, which is really inconvenient. Because if I was to download, let's say, this Nova 2, which is kind of a Halo-ish first-person science fiction shooter, when I actually select the game, it goes to the Gameloft website, and I can buy the game on the Gameloft website by clicking buy, and then you can pay by either, you have to create an account, you can either pay by credit card, PayPal, or a text message charge, which is, you know, not a big deal. But the way that the Gameloft system works is that once you've bought the game on Gameloft, it's actually tied to the phone that you bought it on. Which, I mean, from their perspective makes sense. They don't want you downloading this game on every single phone in the world, but it sort of, you know, goes against the sort of way that the Android market works. If I buy a brand new phone and I upgrade my phone, you know, the applications that I paid for and bought on the market can be downloaded to that new phone. Well, not so with Gameloft games. You actually have to go buy them again. And, you know, to make sure you have to do that, they didn't want to put the applications on the market. So that's a little bit of a pain. It's an extra step to get the game on your phone. I mean, keep in mind, you know, the Gameloft phones, the Gameloft games right now for the Play are only $2.50, so you might have to jump through a couple of extra hoops to get the game on your phone, but they're not like, you know, $10 games, so it's not a huge deal. The other interesting thing is some of the EA games which are available on the market, the OEM versions designed for the Play, again, have to be downloaded through a special website. So again, you know, the process, and also it says that you can download them for free, and I did download the Need for Speed game, but then when I went to download the Worms game, it didn't actually let me download it for free. I did let me download it for free, but then I couldn't play it. I actually had to activate it. It's supposed to be a trial, but I couldn't get the trial to work. So there's a little bit of glitchiness in the way that the games are bought for the Play. And keep in mind, all these games we're looking at right here are all Android Play games. They're not the PlayStation 1 or PS1 games, which you actually have to access through a different application, which I thought was a little, you know, unintuitive. It'd be nice if everything was available through one central interface. There's also games available for the market, so when you click on the link there, it goes into the market. Dungeon Defenders, this is the special, the second wave, which I guess is the one designed for the Play, and this one's actually almost $10. So that one's I didn't actually buy and install this from the market, because once I have to give back this review copy of the review unit of the Play, it's not going to work on my other Android phone, because that one actually specifically is for the Play. So I didn't want to spend, I mean, it's only $10, but still, you know, I have quite a few games that I've downloaded that will still allow you to see, you know, some of the sort of cool gameplay that you can have on the Play. So before I launch these games here, I'm going to go into the PlayStation PS1 games application as well, so you can see that. So I'm just going to go into the PlayStation game store here, and we have PlayStation Pocket. So interestingly enough, as you can see in PlayStation Pocket, it included one of the non-PlayStation games in the list. So there seems to be a little bit of a sort of mix-up when it comes to which games appear in which application. Why those two applications for the the Play and the PlayStation Pocket were not unified into one, I really don't know. So when you get an Xperia Play in Canada, the pre-installed game, PlayStation Pocket game, is Crash Bandicoot, and I've also downloaded Siphon Filter, which I'll show you as well. But let me just load up Crash Bandicoot to show you what it looks like. Now, I never had a PlayStation 1 when I was younger. I'm definitely a PC gamer rather than a console gamer, so a lot of these classic titles are actually new to me. So bear with me as I try and as I fumble with the controls and actually try and play the game. So we actually have to go through the lengthy introduction and logo screens. There's no way to skip right into the game, which is a little bit frustrating. This is a straight port. But it's still, I mean, it's very impressive what they've done. And there's a huge library of really great PlayStation 1 games that would be amazing to play mobile. I mean, I'm thinking of games like Metal Gear Solid, would be one, or Final Fantasy VII. Playing that on your phone on the go. Pretty cool if you're a fan of JRPGs. Let me just turn up the volume. Another thing about it is I'm going to drown out my voice. The speakers are actually pretty good on this. But as you can see, I'm not very good. Well, okay, this is getting embarrassing. So as you can see, it's a very faithful rendition of the original game. Speakers are very loud. Controls feel excellent in the hands. But to get out of it, you actually have to bring up an Android menu, and you can actually save your progress as well. So I'll show the other PlayStation 1 game I downloaded, Siphon Filter, which is a third-person action game, a third-person shooter. Now the PlayStation 1 games are actually bought through the market, which means you should be able to transfer those titles to another device. If you end up, let's say the Xperia Play 2 comes out, or another PlayStation certified phone comes out, those games that you bought in the market should be transferable to that new device. So
when does the operation begin? Our intelligence within the FBI was not clear, but rumors of men are already inside the subway.
Is it the same virus?
Yes, enough to eliminate.
So there you go, the cutscene and all the dialogue is there.
Master Romer on level 1. Dudu is on level 2. No location yet for Kravitch, and I don't see any sign of Aramon.
Copy. I'm on my way.
Again, you have to bear with me, I'm not very good at console shooters.
I've been hit.
I'm sure if you actually played the original game, you could probably tell that this is basically a perfect rendition or port of the... It'd be interesting to know whether they actually ported the code and it's basically just running on Android but only works through that PlayStation interface, or if they actually just have an emulator running on the phone which allows you to play the games. So we'll get out of this. That's a siphon filter, and recently played, recently added. Click the little magnifying glass there, and you can actually see the other games that are currently available in the market to be downloaded. There's Cool Borders 2, Medieval, Rallycross, Wild Arms. So since the Xperia Play is being out, there's still only 5 games available for it. And I was hoping there'd be some more by now, but keep in mind the Play is only just recently, or just about to be released in the States on Verizon. This is the Canadian model running on Rogers, and has been available in Europe for a couple more weeks than that. So it's still early days for them. I'm pretty sure once the US model is on sale and becomes... hopefully becomes quite popular, you might see a wider selection of PlayStation games available. So as you can see, the games are $5.83 Canadian and available through the market. So getting out of the PlayStation menu, let's just close this back up, pop this back open again, look at the Xperia Play games. Along with the Crash Bandicoot that was pre-installed, the Rogers Canadian version of the Xperia Play comes with some other games pre-installed, and I do have to correct myself with my comments about the EA games. The Need for Speed Shift and Worms, which are available through this EA OEM store, are not actually free. It does actually say, it says download for free on the screen, which I guess is a little bit misleading, because yes, you can download it for free, but in actual fact they are not included in that free game selection. The only game that is not pre-installed that you get free with the Play is Asphalt 6, which is a really good racing game which I have installed. So the pre-installed games you get with it would be Bruce Lee, which is a 3D beat 'em up, and you get FIFA 10, soccer game, football game for Europeans. You get Madden 2011, football for North Americans and Canadians. You get Star Battalion, which is a sort of space shooting game, and you also get Tetris, but again, as I mentioned, it's kind of strange. Some of the games don't actually appear in that interface, so here's the icon to launch Tetris. So you can actually launch the interface with the gamepad closed as well, because some games obviously will still work in touchscreen, though why you would want to use touchscreen only controls when you have this beautiful gamepad in front of you. So I'm just now I'm going to sort of move on to the second sort of, I guess, second video. So I'll check out part 2, and in part 2 I'm going to go over each of the games I have installed, play them for a few minutes just to give you an idea of what they look like and how they play, and hopefully this will inspire you to go out and get one of these, because as I said, I was skeptical of the phone before I actually got to play with it for an extended period. A couple of times I had a few minutes with it. I didn't really spend enough time with it to form a concrete opinion, and I wasn't sure it would be something that I'll be interested in. I'm a big gamer, PC gamer mostly, but I haven't really done a lot of gaming on my other phones because I really don't like the touchscreen interface for a lot of games. I mean, it works for games like Angry Birds and sort of puzzle style games, but as soon as you have a game that requires any more complex controls, an arcade game, you know, first-person shooters, third-person shooters, really the touchscreen interface does not work very well. It actually works okay in driving games because you have the accelerometer, which allows you to turn the phone to steer. But there's so many games that just, you know, really having hardware controls makes a huge difference. And I sort of suggest, if you're considering a mobile gaming device, even if Android wasn't on your list, even if this phone wasn't what you're looking for, you might be an iPhone user, or you might be looking at a PSP or the Nintendo 3DS, definitely take a look at the Play. Go into a store that has one on demo, play some of the pre-installed games. Asphalt 6, which is a free download, which hopefully should be installed on any demo phone that you get to check out, is very impressive, not just graphically, but there's quite a lot of depth for a mobile racing game. It's pretty damn good. You know, I found myself mildly addicted to it when I first started playing with the Play. So once again, this is RGB Filter. We're looking at the Xperia Play, available now from Rogers in Canada, and coming soon to Verizon in the US. Definitely check out part 2 of my video, where I show you some of these games in action, so you get a better feel for how they play on this phone.